Tom Brokaw is among our most illustrious broadcast journalists. He's a colleague, a friend, and truly a witness to our times.
Life in the streets of Beijing.
He would never have imagined biking through Tiananmen Square.
Only one passing bicyclist seemed to know what we were up to.
For 20 years, Tom Brokaw was at the helm of NBC Nightly News,
in El Salvador,
delivering the news of the day.
And we have a remarkable development here tonight at the Brandenburg Gate.
And sometimes the news of a lifetime.
The wall is effectively down.
That was one of the biggest stories of the 20th century, and I was the only one there.
The only one of the big three.
Peter Jennings, Dan Rather, Tom Brokaw.
And we were competing all day, every day.
This is NBC Nightly News.
And then facing off
with Tom Brokaw in New York.
Every night.
President Reagan today.
Colleagues still call him Duncan. Duncan the Wonder Horse for his vaunted capacity for work. Never give up. Could explain where that comes from. Brokaw's latest book is a hybrid, memoir and history. A kind of love letter to his parents and the hard-working people of the plains who shared a never-give-up outlook.
Is this the story of your success compared to your parents or because of your parents?
Oh, it's because of my parents.
This is Tom Brokaw's dad.
He was the toughest kid in town.
If a character had been invented by Mark Twain and Charles Dickens, would have been Red Brokaw. An elementary school dropout.
Yeah.
A town tough. I don't think anybody tucked him in at night.
The youngest of 10, Red Brokaw had a learning disability, quit school in 2nd grade, and went to work at the age of 8.
He was doing horrifyingly dangerous jobs.
And one of them was digging a deep well, and they would put a rope around my dad's legs and drop him down headfirst into the well.
In those times, nobody batted an eye when your father is on some kind of agricultural contraption, and if he had fallen off his perch, he would have been shredded.
There were no rules in those days, and if there were federal regulations, they didn't get all the way to Bristol, South Dakota, I gotta tell you.
After the Civil War, like other ambitious young men, Tom's great-grandfather went west and got off the train in Bristol.
What opportunity did he think he would find in the middle of nowhere?
It was completely barren at that point. And he decided what it really needed was a place where people could find food and find a place to stay.
Over the years, the Brokaw House became a local landmark. A family business, everyone worked.
Oyster stew and coleslaw, boiled lamb, duck, roast beef, roast turkey, mashed potatoes, peas, squash, steamed suet pudding, that sounds delicious, mince pie, apple pie, custard pie, blueberry pie, orange pudding, assorted cake. Mrs. Brokaw was in the kitchen and made it all.
My grandmother unfortunately died at an early age. She was only 42 because she just worked full time.
Throughout his life, it seems Red Brokaw worked all the time.
He wanted to be respected. He wanted the people to think well of him.
Your parents, on their wedding day.
How more handsome can they be?
Tom's interest in news gathering may have come from his mother, Jean. A working mother, she was the local postmistress.
It was like being the head of a newspaper in town. Everything went through the post office.
Red Brokaw was as self-made as a working man could be. A genius with heavy machinery, and he could build anything.
Harnessing the Missouri River. The first power comes from the 4th largest earth dam in the world, Fort Randall.
A muscular monument to a confident post-war America. The Fort Randall Dam stands astride the Missouri River, built in 9 years by the Army Corps of Engineers, and an army of working men like Red Brokaw.
I think of that dam, and if you build it, they will come.
It was a hugely important dam for flood control and other things, and for creating power.
And jobs. The Brokaw family packed up and headed for Pickstown.
Pickstown sounds like a mirage.
Pickstown was a magical place, and it had everything you can imagine. It had great schools, it had great hospitals, and everybody came from all over America, mostly working class.
Pickstown was a manufactured town for the people who would build the dam, who found neat houses with state-of-the-art amenities like heat, and running water.
And at the end of the 9 years, they folded it up and shipped it away.
The story of Tom Brokaw's success begins in Pickstown.
When there was a school play, I had a lead. When there was an event that was going on in town in which they needed an MC, guess who they called?
Yankton, South Dakota, is what Tom calls home. His high school resume includes governor of South Dakota Boys State, class president. Meredith Auld was vice president, a cheerleader, the doctor's daughter, and his future wife.
You've been married for how long?
60 years. 6-0. A 6 and an O.
When she was about to marry you, she explains to a friend, well, I don't know if we'll make any money, but life will be interesting.
Right.
Beyond their dreams. In 1976, Tom's career was taking off.
That is dawn coming up over New York this morning.
The new host of Today.
There is a welcome new addition to this set, a kind of dawn in itself. It is Jane Pauley, of course.
With a really new newcomer by his side.
I knew Gary before he met you.
Meredith was a matchmaker.
Then he was showing up in my office a lot. Meredith says, not about you. He wants to meet Jane. I said, oh.
Well, on behalf of my children, thank you.
You're going to go see the grandson play soccer.
Sarah and I and Archer will be looking around Madrid, and then he goes to camp.
The Brokaws dote on their 3 daughters and 5 grandchildren.
It's a commentary on where we've come in life. You know, we now have a grandson who's going away to a soccer camp in Europe.
It seems unimaginable from our early life, right?
10 years ago, life took a hard turn. Diagnosed with multiple myeloma, an incurable blood cancer. Tom Brokaw wasn't supposed to live to be 83. But Duncan is still the wonder horse.
I've had a bad experience. I kept thinking bad things would happen to me. But as I grew older, I began to develop this condition. And what you try to do is control it as much as you can. And I've had to change my life in some way. I really had to give up my daily activity with NBC. I had to walk away from them as they were walking away from me. I just wasn't the same person. And so for the first time in my life, I was kind of out there, you know, in a place I had never been in my life.
But what a life it's been.
You were deeply formed by your South Dakota roots. You left, but what did you take with you?
That you get things done by getting them done. As my family and my friends will all tell you, I never run out of gas.